Distinguished Rosh Chabura, HaRav Yosef Lowinger and his Rebbetzin, distinguished members of the Kollel, the Yungelite and the Shter Kollel, and I include my own Eishes Chayil, HaRav Avigdor Goldberger, the Menahel of the Kollel, and Rav Adil Ruvain Crystal, Director of Development, who worked tirelessly, and I mean Rabbi Goldberger as well, for weeks and weeks to assure the success of tonight's dinner. And Baruch Hashem, tonight's dinner is a great and magnificent success. Distinguished board members, Chashav Rabbanim from our community, honorees, my dear friends, Yedidi V'Chavivi, HaRav Yecheskel Greenberg, and his Rebbetzin, Rav of Kilas Beis Yisrael, Rav Menachem Frank, my former partner as Rosh Kollel in the Kollel, and his Rebbetzin, principal of Beis Yaakov of Borough Park, Elementary of Borough Park, Rav Aryeh Cohen and his Rebbetzin, Director of Outreach and of the J-Way, Rav Eliezer Lefkowitz and his Rebbetzin, Aram and Yeshiva of South Monsey, HaRav Moshe Weinrib and his Rebbetzin, who unfortunately were supposed to be here, could not make it, as we heard, Rosh Yeshiva in Norfolk and the H. Kodesh Yeshiva, and Rav and Rebbetzin Aryeh Geretz of Cleveland, and Rav and Rebbetzin Yaakov Yosef Huffman of Lakewood, who are indeed honorees tonight, even though they are not here. And worthy honorees, J-Wayers of the year, Mr. and Mrs. Sidney Usa. And everyone who is here tonight, thank you all for coming. In this week's Torah portion, B'Haloscha, at the end of the parsha, we find that Miriam is critical of her brother Moshe Rabbeinu. And Hashem admonishes Miriam. And he tells her that even she did not fully appreciate who her brother Moshe Rabbeinu was. And Hashem tells her that B'chol Beisi Nemanhu, in my entire house, he is the most loyal servant that exists. Pel Daberbo, in the history of the world, there was never and will never be another person who had such clear and communication with Hashem as great a Navi, a prophet as Moshe Rabbeinu, who had this Aspaklaria Me'ira. There was no one like him. And as a result, Miriam comes down with Saras, which is a spiritual ailment for speaking Lashon Hara, and she has to go out of the camp for 7 days. And the Torah tells us, V'ha'om lo nasa ad he'osef Miriam. And that millions of Jews who were camped in the desert stayed right where they were and did not travel any further until those 7 days were over and Miriam could again join them in the camp. And Rashi comments, Zah kavod cholak lahamakom. This kavod, this honor was given to Miriam, that millions of Jews waited for her to come back in. For what reason? Bishvil sho'achash shenisakva leMoshe kishehushloch li'or. Because she waited a long time ago for Moshe Rabbeinu, her little brother, who was put into the Ya'ar, into the Nile, in a basket by his mother, and she waited, she waited to see what would happen with that child. So now, just as she waited for her brother, now everyone is waiting for her. And the question is that event happened many years ago, happened 80 years ago. Moshe is 80 years old when he takes the Jews out of Mitzrayim. And that event was at the birth time of Moshe Rabbeinu. And now, and particularly now, is for some reason the payment is given to Miriam that just as she waited, everyone is waiting for her. Why did it take 80 years for that payment to be repaid? So on the simplest level, we would say, well, she never needed it until now. Now she needs it. But the Shemin HaTov says a better answer. He says the following. Sometimes when we do a kindness, sometimes when we get involved in something that is ennobling, something that is an important and critical institution or undertaking that we involve ourselves in, the fruit of what we started out doing cannot be recognized right away. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years, and sometimes it can take 80 years. The truth is that as much as they appreciated Moshe Rabbeinu, after all, Moshe was the one who was sent by Hashem to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, to speak to Paro, to bring the plagues, to split the sea, to bring down the manna from heaven, the mun, to go up into Mount Har Sinai and to get the Torah, to build the tabernacle, the Mishkan. All of that was already known. That was the past. But there was one critical point about Moshe that was not known until this very time. And that was that the Peh El Peh Adaber Bo, that my relationship, says Hashem, with Moshe Rabbeinu, the level of his nevuah, the level on which he communicated with Hashem, is second to none. He is qualitatively greater than any other person that ever lived. And that was not known until Miriam spoke about her brother, and Hashem tells Miriam that you don't even realize how great your brother is. So now it became fully appreciated what Miriam had accomplished. Because Miriam 80 years ago had waited to see what would happen with her younger brother Moshe, and as a result, she got her mother to be the nurse for Moshe. And now only for the very first time it becomes evident who this Moshe Rabbeinu, the full picture of who Moshe Rabbeinu is, becomes evident at this point. So now is the time for repayment. 18 years ago, there was, excuse me, there was a group of young couples, youthful in their outlook, unexperienced, certainly in the ways of the Midwest, East Coasters, in-towners, some would call them. They came as pioneers to this community to create a partnership with our Kehillah, with the Minneapolis Jewish community, a partnership that would result in fruits that would be beautiful, beautiful fruits. And those fruits were not easily seen at the time. They established a Beis Medrash, a Makom Torah, where the echo of Kol Torah was heard and reverberated within the walls. And that Beis Medrash served as a magnet for Jews of all persuasions and all walks of life to come and participate and learn Torah and enjoy Torah and be uplifted and elevated by that Torah. We might ask ourselves, what's the secret behind the power that these Jungelite, these special Jungelite, what was the power that they were able to communicate and attract people, and some people very different than themselves, but people of all persuasions? And I'd like to share with you a Gemara in Eruvin. We're learning it in the Kollel this year. We're learning Eruvin. And in the Gemara in Samach Gimel, I'm going to a little snippet from the Gemara. The Gemara says that when Joshua, after Moshe's death, and Joshua took the Jews, crossed the Yarden, the Jordan River with the Jews, and entered the land of Canaan, the land of Eretz Yisrael. So the first battle was the battle of Yericho. And it says, Vayhi biyos Yeshua b'Yericho, Vayisa einav, Vayarine ish omei kenegdo, v'char b'shlufa b'yado. And Joshua looks up and he sees an individual who is holding and brandishing a sword. And he says to him, Halonu atoim litzarenu, are you friend or foe? So the response was, Vayomer lo, ki ani sar tzvo Hashem ata basi. I am an angel, and I have come to admonish you for two things. And what was the admonishment? So the Gemara explains, one thing was that the previous day the Jews did not bring the evening sacrifice to Tamish Rabbeinu Arbaim because they were engaged in the war effort. And at that night, they also didn't devote themselves to Limud HaTorah, to Torah study, because they were also engaged in the war effort. He says, that's why I'm coming to you, because there was time at night. You could have studied Torah at night. There was time at night. The war is in the daytime. You're not fighting at night, so you should have gone back and studied Torah and immersed yourselves in Torah, and that's what you should have done. So Yeshua says, Al Ezim and Basar, which is the primary reason for your coming? Is it the fact that we didn't bring the sacrifice last night, or the fact that we didn't study Torah last night? He says, Ata Basi. I'm coming for Ata. Ata means what is now. Now, the thing that just happened, which means that the delinquents in study of Torah. And Tosas in Megillah and Dav Gimel says that why is Ata Basi a reference to Torah? Because the word Ata appears in relationship to Torah. The word Ata is a word that's used in regard to Torah. So that's how we know that this Ata Basi means for the sake of Torah. So the Panovich HaRav, Rav Yosef Kahaneman, formerly the rabbi of Panovich in Lithuania and subsequently moved to Eretz Yisrael, Bnei Brak, asked that there are many references to Torah in the various verses in the Torah. Why this verse, Ata, Kisu Lechem es Ashir Azos? Why is that the word that the angel uses to indicate that they were delinquent in Torah study? He could have used many other verses. Why particularly this verse that says, Ata Kisu Lechem es Ashir Azos? So the Panovich HaRav gives an answer to that question. But before I give you his answer, I'd like to tell you first something about the Panovich HaRav. Rabbi Yosef Kahaneman, a Lithuanian Jew, was one of the great rabbanim, one of the great rabbis in pre-war Europe, and even after the war. He was a giant in Torah, he was a giant in chesed and kindness, and working for the community, energetic, and always moving and always doing. He became appointed as the chief rabbi of Panovich, a shtetl which had 10,000 Jews, and in Lithuania that was a major, major shtetl. And he was one of the leaders of Agudas Yisrael in Lithuania. He was actually a member of the Lithuanian parliament. He was a deputat, a deputy in the parliament, like a congressman in the parliament of Lithuania. And possessing tremendous energy, he expanded all the infrastructure, the Jewish infrastructure of the city of Panovich. And he also founded a Beis Yaakov. And the pinnacle of his accomplishments was that he founded a yeshiva which became known as the Panovich Yeshiva in Panovich, Lithuania. And we have an uncle actually who studied in that yeshiva, Shmuel Pliskin. Also, Rav Isaac Osman from Tels was in the yeshiva at the same time. So he came to America together with the rabbi of Kovna, the Dvar Avram, in order to pave some type of path for Jews in Lithuania and in general from Europe to be able to come to America. He was unsuccessful in paving that path. They would not let Jews in. And that itself is a story that needs to be told, but for another time. He came back, he traveled back to Lithuania, he got as far as Italy, and then he saw he could go no further. So instead of going back to Lithuania, his home, he went to Palestine. In 1941, the Nazis entered Panovich. They liquidated the entire city, all 10,000 Jews. They murdered Rav Kahneman's Rebbitzin, his son, and of course, they destroyed the yeshiva and killed all the students of the yeshiva. With his family gone, his community gone, everything that was familiar to him in the world gone, he could have succumbed to despair. But instead, he decided that he was going to rebuild the Panovich Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, in the legendary city of Torah scholarship in Bnei Brak. And this would be his mission, to restore and rebuild that yeshiva. As he was preparing for laying the foundation, the cornerstone for that yeshiva, another historic incident occurred. Marshal Rommel, a German general, known as the Desert Fox, was moving toward Palestine. He had a number of different successful campaigns in northern Africa, and now he set his sights on Palestine. And together, he made a pact together with the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem that he was going to come in and kill all the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, in Palestine. He got as far as Alexandria, and he was poised at this time to enter Israel. At that very same time, Rabbi Yosef Kahneman gathers people to lay the cornerstone for the Panovich Yeshiva. And you can imagine how these people had everything other than the Panovich Yeshiva on their minds at that point in history. Yet, he gathered them and he encouraged them, and they came to lay the cornerstone. And as he's addressing the people and telling them that this yeshiva is going to be the continuity of Torah in Israel, and there are going to be hundreds of students in this yeshiva. Today there are thousands, but there are going to be hundreds of students, of exceptional students who will learn Torah in this institution. One person calls out from the crowd and says, Panovich HaRav, ihr cholem sich. Panovich HaRav, you're dreaming. Can't be. It can't be. So the Panovich HaRav answered famously. He said, Taka echolem sich. I am dreaming. You're right. Indeed, I am dreaming. Aber schlafen schlaf ich nicht. But I'm not sleeping. I may be dreaming, but I'm not sleeping. And my dream is to create a Torah institution that will be the bridge and the continuity of the learning of Torah in Europe. Even when there were existential threats to the Jewish people and to Rabbi Kahneman himself from Europe, Europe was in flames. Europe was inflamed, and Rommel was poised to attack it. Incidentally, Rommel never attacked, miraculously, and the Panovich Yeshiva was built and houses thousands of students today. But at that moment, when everything was as bad as it could possibly get, that is when the Panovich HaRav says we need to have a continuity of Torah. Getting back to our question, the Panovich HaRav asked that if the Malach came to Yeshua to tell him that they had been delinquent in the study of Torah, and he says the word ata, that I'm coming for the word ata. Ata is a reference to Torah. Ata kisrulias ashira azos. So the Panovich HaRav said, but there's many words in the Torah that have referred to Torah. Why specifically this one? So the Panovich HaRav said, because if you understand that Torah is an obligation, if you understand that Torah is something that you have to do, if you understand that Torah is something that a Jew does, that will not get you through the difficult times. And when there's existential threats to the Jewish people, it won't help you. But if you realize that Ata Kisru Lachem Es Hashira Hazos, that Torah is a song, it's the melody of life, it's the melody of a Jew. It's not what he does, but it's who he is. That's what Torah is. When you understand that Torah is a shira, everything about us, it lifts us up, it elevates us, it gives us our raison d'etre for being in the world. That's what we are. We are people who study Torah. That's what we are. When you recognize that it's a song of life, then and only then, when you're in the middle of the battle with Yericho, and you're laying siege to one of the most difficult battles that might occur, even at those moments, you have to study Torah, because Torah is your life. That's what life is all about. So this was aptly said by the Panovich HaRav himself. I would like to suggest that if you want to know what the secret of our Junge Light, the original Chabura, the original group that came to start the Kollel, and every subsequent group that came, what typifies and defines that group is that Torah is not what they do, but Torah is what they are. And that's who they are. And Torah is something, and they're saturated with Torah. And when Torah is studied and learned on that level, it's explosive. It has ramifications. it explodes. It's something that attracts. Others become attracted to that magnetic pull. And their Torah can go outward and other people see it, and everyone wants to have a part of that beautiful, beautiful Torah-dika life. It is our bracha to all of the honorees and everyone in this room that we should all grow in Torah. We should all continue to grow. And the Kollel should continue to grow in Torah, be a magnet, be together with this beautiful Kehillah, together continue this partnership, that we should be able to create a covered, an honor to Hashem in this world where Torah, His Torah is studied. His Torah is what is the melody of the life of all Jews, and that will shine forth from our Kollel Misham.